Welcome to the Learn to Hunt podcast presented by the Oklahoma Department of Wildlife Conservation. My name is Pake Wise. I'm the Hunter Education Coordinator. Today we're going to talk about archery and everything kind of goes along with that. Got Colin Berg here. I'm going to let him introduce himself and then we'll get into it. So,
I'm Colin Berg. I work for Morrell Archery Targets now, as well as Archers USA program, which is a intro to archery, kind of next step archery program that the department here actually is involved with. But prior to this job, I worked for 31 years for the Department of Wildlife.
Yep.
So kind of known you for a long time, but served for about 25 of those years as the education section supervisor for the agency. And so helped start all things archery and have been a lifelong archer, 40 years, longer than you've been alive.
Only by a couple of years. It hadn't been that much longer. So, what made you pursue this career?
The career on the wildlife side is, man, ever since I was a young kid, like 12 years of age, that's what I knew that I wanted to do, was work for the Department of Wildlife. There wasn't near as many openings when I got out of college as there are now for positions, and interned for a year or 6 months with the agency, went back, got a master's degree, fell in love with the education stuff, and was lucky enough to get hired on in an education position with the department. And then post-department, it was a long, great career. Loved it. Really didn't work any day.
There we go.
It was all fun stuff that I was involved with. There's days that I didn't want to show up, but I enjoyed everything that I did. And now working with Morrell, they've been an organization that has been involved with the Archery in the Schools program since it started. And I've known Dale Morrell, the owner of the company, for 21 years now. It's a way to stay engaged with all state wildlife agencies on the Archery in the Schools program, and starting to get varsity archery and the Archery Trade Association. So it's kind of my background was, I just love the outdoors, and my job was my hobby, really. So
Yeah.
that's how I fell into it.
Yeah. Well, and so I think education is a big section that a lot of people don't realize is a part of wildlife conservation.
Yeah.
I think people think wildlife conservation, they're thinking biologists, right? Game wardens. So what made you specifically want to go into education? Was that a passion from the beginning, or?
No, it wasn't necessarily a passion from the beginning. I was going to either be once I didn't get hired full time with the agency, I went back, I thought, I enjoyed the education stuff because that's where I interned.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no better way to pass those traditions on than to educate others about it. And so you can do a little bit on a WMA or a little bit with being law enforcement, but I really like teaching people the right way to do stuff to keep them out of trouble, as well as just seeing those kids or adults, the glimmer in their eye when they finally are exposed to something that I just grew up doing
Mm-hmm.
and took for granted in a lot of cases because of the opportunities that I had. So that's kind of why I fell into the education side of it.
Yeah. See, I was real similar to that. When I was an intern, being quite honest with you, I had no idea that there even was an education department. Yeah. Joined it and went, oh, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Getting to teach people how to hunt and fish, getting to see the stuff that I got to experience as a kid and see other kids experience, or like you said, even grown adults.
Yeah.
Get to see them experience that thing for the very first time and see how wonderful and how incredible that is. So, but yeah, I just kind of wanted to touch on that because I think that's a section of wildlife conservation that a lot of people overlook. But, so like I said, we're going to get into some archery. As far as archery hunting goes, what kind of equipment, or not licensing, what kind of a licensing do they need?
This varies depending on the age category. The great thing that the department did just recently with the youth super license,
Mm-hmm.
that's awesome. Being able to, those kids, when they head a field, they don't have to worry about, do they have the appropriate license? They automatically have everything with it. Same thing with the adults now, where you buy if you're a resident, you got to have the regular hunting license if you don't have a lifetime, and then you have to have the season license on deer for which season you're hunting. Mm-hmm. And there's an archery season license, covers every deer that you can legally harvest during that archery season. So simplifies it so much, makes it easy. Yeah. It's the same thing. It's been that way for a long time on the non-resident side. I know the non-residents now have to have that annual hunting license as well, and there's a youth license on the non-resident side. So it's really simplified it down. The number of licenses from when I started 32 years ago now would have been, if I was still with the department, to what it is now. Mm-hmm. The number of codes and the number of things that you had to purchase, it's really simplified it. So it makes it pretty easy for people to understand the licensing. This is all that you need when you head a field if you're going to archery bow hunt.
Yeah. Yep. Cool. So let's say I've got my license now. next step is, where do I go? So where's some, like, where do I need to go to start bow hunting? Like,
There's so many places to get overlooked
yeah.
that people, you know, we got a lot of fantastic public hunting areas across the state. The majority are open, you know, virtually the entire archery season. You got to brush up, make sure that the place that you want to hunt, that the public hunting area is actually open. Some of them are federally owned. So everybody doesn't always know that there's no separation, and some of those have stricter requirements. And now the agency also has a very successful OLAP program, land access program, across the state where there's private lands that are being leased by the agency. Those are places to start looking. Go to the website, first of all, 1,000,000+ acres across the state. First thing that you look at is where's closest. Most people, when they get started, are going to look somewhere close to home. They're not going to travel across the state.
Yep.
So look and find that area that's closest to you, and go out there and discover a little bit preseason scouting. Go out and look and see. You can also still very successfully, sometimes it's going to be the 20th person that you knock on their door and you ask permission to go hunting. A lot of places are leased, but a lot of people, some of the smaller properties, appreciate the fact that somebody walks up to their door and actually asks to go hunting. But you got to be willing to accept denial.
Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of no.
Get denied. But when I taught hunter ed, that's what I told people is, hey, you can still find access. You just have to be willing to put in a little bit of work. Sometimes it's actually work that you volunteer to help them do something.
Something else that I've heard from people is you tend to get more yes. Your yes percentage is higher when you say, I will bow hunt only.
Yeah.
Because I know a big risk with landowners, or a big worry with landowners, is I'm letting somebody on my property that I don't know with a rifle. I don't want an accident to happen. Whereas with a bow, those accidents are going to go way down. They don't have to worry about a stray bullet or something. So that's another thing. So archery can, sometimes you say, hey, I'll bow hunt only. I'm willing to do that. They're like, oh, okay. Well, if that's all you want to do, sure, have at it.
Right.
So, so what makes archery unique as far as a hunting experience goes?
Well, in Oklahoma, there's basically 3.5 months of season, and you can hunt deer that early on in that season are going to be, their patterns are going to be totally different than they are mid-season and late season, based upon, you have a lot of changes that take place from late summer. Lots of greenery that's still out there, to when they go into the rut period. It's really exciting to be out there. You'll see things. You'll have potentially a lot of encounters that you'll never see, even if you wait to rifle hunt. And then the later part of the season, you have the second rut that kind of takes place in certain areas where does didn't get bred, but then those deer go back to feeding source. Late season, there's not as much browse and stuff, so you can start patterning. And I encourage people to hunt that December through January portion, because on public hunting areas, there's not as many people out there. We all kind of use up time off between October and end of November, and you get to Thanksgiving, you do a little bit of hunting in the late season, Christmas is in there, and all of a sudden it's like, man, where'd all the bow hunters go that were out here the first couple of weeks? They're not here. You can have a WMA almost to yourself.
Yeah, I've noticed that myself, is the late season there, those last 2 weeks of the season, so basically January. A lot of times you'll have the woods to yourself.
Yeah.
And if you kind of know how to set yourself up, late season can be really, really good.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of people overlook it. They're like, oh, we're past the rut, the deer aren't moving right, and they just kind of give up on it.
Yeah.
But if you put in a little effort, late season's really, really good.
Yeah. And because it's so long, you can have so many days of field, you can spread it out and say, I'm going to hunt. I've got only weekends that I can hunt, kind of get it on the books of when you're going to be out in the field, and realize that the more times you go, every time you're out, you're going to learn something.
Yep.
And so, I've been hunting for 40 years with a bow. I still learn things, and then I relearn stuff. It's like, oh, you messed that up because you didn't pay attention to this, It's like, it's just gives you a long learning opportunity. And a lot of folks handle these questions a lot of times, people coming in to buy licenses, they only have a certain number of days that they can take off from work.
Yep.
And if you can spread it out, take a Friday or a Monday off throughout that 3.5 month period versus 7 days during deer gun season or something, that you're going to be, you really get to learn a little bit more about that animal
Mm-hmm.
and potentially increase your success.
Yep. Something else that I enjoy about an aspect of archery that I really like, that I think makes it unique, is the proximity to which you have to get to a deer, right?
Yes.
With a rifle, rifle hunting's fun and it's very effective, but there's something exciting that I really enjoy
Yeah.
archery hunting, where that deer's got to be close. There's a lot of movement you got to do to be able to get fully drawn and be
Yep.
successful. And so that adrenaline rush and that anxiety almost that you feel when oh, I've got a deer coming in. It's just to me that there's nothing there's never done anything else that feels like that. So I don't know if you've had. I'm sure you've probably had the same kind of
Oh, I do,
experience.
and I still get that adrenaline rush, whether it's a
Mhm,
doe or antler deer that I'm gonna hopefully try to harvest.
mhm.
Is now it's within range. Not just within range, it has to be turned the right way, and it has to be all those things,
Yep.
and, all that stuff goes through your mind, the anxiety of, "Just turn," and it's like it's very exciting to be out there. The other things that I like about those archery seasons is I get to see a lot of sunrises and sunsets,
Yes.
and so you just see a lot that happens in the outdoors, take it
Mhm.
all in, versus, again, that short window that may or may not have good weather conditions.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you can kinda pick when you
There's been
wanna
plenty
go.
of times where I've gone, "Oh, I'm gonna go rifle hunting this weekend," and the weather's like, "No, you're not.
Yeah,
You're not
exactly.
going anywhere." Um, so back to like you said, you've been doing this for 40 years and you still get excited.
Mhm.
I know personally, especially early in the season, when I'm on my first, second, third sit of the year, and that first deer that I see, it could be a fawn with spots that I have no intention of shooting,
Yeah,
and I'm still shaking. Just the adrenaline rush, like there's a deer, it's this close, it has no idea I'm there.
yeah.
Just, I mean, on a fawn that tends to wear off as the season goes because a lot of times you're going to see that fawn multiple times.
Multiple times.
But it just goes to show that experience there just it never fades.
Right.
And I think that's something that's really special about archery. Um, can you talk a little bit about the history of archery?
Oklahoma's got a long history. It's back before I started, before I was even born with the agency, that they offered the first deer season. I believe it was in the mid-50s, that the season started. It was a very short season. Now the population has grown so much. We got 3.5 months. There was a time when I first started that there was a couple weeks in between muzzleloader season, primitive firearms, and rifle season that was closed, wasn't
Mhm.
open. January wasn't open. It's just the history because of the population. The agency has worked really hard to keep up with the deer herd and to increase opportunities as well as quality management for our deer numbers that we've got across the state. So that's kind of a quick snapshot of. It's been really
Yeah.
neat. The population from when I started bow hunting, you have a lot better opportunity of actually being successful. Early on, I mean, everybody was like, "You got a deer?"
Yeah.
Like you saw a deer,
Yep.
and now it's even on our public hunting areas, you may experience a few outings. Be mobile. That's one of the big things
Mhm.
is the deer population because that history has grown, and so you got to just move around. If they're not around you, you got to go scout another spot.
Yep. So it's funny you talk about that opportunity. My dad has a newspaper article from his grandpa. It was out in the Afton Grove area
Hmm.
is where he grew up. He shot a buck, little basket rack 6-point buck, and he made the front page of the paper
Oh yeah,
because he shot a buck.
yeah,
Like that's how rare deer were back then.
yeah,
It wasn't a deal. Yeah, you said you shot a deer, and it's like
yeah,
I did.
yeah.
Like, well, you're the coolest man around. So, well, cool. So we've kind of talked about the history, and we've talked about our licensing and where to go. So, let's kind of dive into the meat of archery, and we're going to talk about equipment. So let's first start out with what equipment is absolutely necessary. Like, what do you have to have in order to bow hunt?
You gotta have a bow, whether it's a
That was
compound
a
bow,
softball. So
compound, or a long bow, or a recurve, or a crossbow,
yeah.
whichever. All of them are legal to use. You got to follow the regulations as far as draw weight for each one of those, and then practice with each one of them. And what I'd always tell people is, you got a buddy that, man, this is the only bow that you should buy. This bow is it.
Hmm.
Well, there's some people that like Fords, there's some people that like Dodges, there's some people that like Chevys, there's some that like Toyotas. It's the same with a bow. Go to a pro shop. Just because your buddy, friend, his wife shoots this bow and you're trying to get your wife into bow hunting. Well, she should shoot this same bow. Well, it may not feel comfortable in her
Mhm.
hand. So the first thing is go to that pro shop, go in the summertime. This time of year, they're pretty hooked up. They may not be able to spend very much time with you if you're waiting
Yep.
until hunting season. But if you go in early and start practicing early, they can get you set up with a bow that's going to feel comfortable. And that's a big part of it is the comfort in your hand, being able to draw that bow back, feel comfortable with it at full draw, and then all the different gadgets that go on it. You
Mhm.
can deck a bow completely out with lots of different things. You can get really deep into it, but you need, you know, on a compound bow, you're going to select a sight. I always recommend people, depending on most deer still today are harvested out to about 20 yards.
Yep.
So people can shoot, you can shoot 100 yards. People can. Is it an ethical shot? Probably not, because that deer can move so much that an arrow's not a rifle. It's not
Yep.
traveling really fast and they can just move. So I don't recommend those shots. A sight that, again, your eyes, as I've aged, I've got to have a bigger peep that I look through. I've got to have a little bit bigger sight pin that I'm looking at.
Yep.
All those different things that kind of come into play of making sure that you got the right release that you feel comfortable with. There's all different kinds that are out there. Selecting that equipment to you as an individual versus what your friend may recommend because he or she is comfortable with it may not be what you want to buy.
Mhm.
Those pro shop folks, they want your business. They want you to feel comfortable. They want you to be successful. Hitting that target is the first part of success. Practicing, feeling confident in the bow that you've got in your hands. And practice with it is the number one thing. But picking those accessories, they'll help you out. You walk in, you don't have to know everything there is about archery. That's what the shop is there for,
Yep.
to help you buy and cut your arrows to the correct length, make sure that they're spined correctly for the bow that you're going to be purchasing. Rely on those folks to really help you get it set up with the right equipment versus buying just a bow off a shelf and going, well, this doesn't even fit me correctly. Draw length's not right. It's
Yep.
packed behind my ear. It's short. And it's like, where did you buy the bow? I bought it from a buddy. And it's like, you're not anywhere close to the draw length for that bow.
Yeah.
It's some of the stuff that you need to go to that pro shop and visit with them and get them to help you select the right things, get you set up right. Makes
Yep.
it a lot funner. Same thing with if you're playing golf. You go, your buddy's 6'5" and gives you his golf clubs, and it's like, I'm 6 foot. There's a big difference.
Yeah.
And so make sure that you go and get the right advice.
Heck, half the fun for me anytime I go to buy any equipment like that. I just bought a whole new bow setup last year. Half the fun was going around talking to the bro shop guy. Hey, what's your opinion on these 3 different sights
Right.
or these 4 different stabilizers, and have them explain to me, well, this is what this does, this is how this attaches, and just let them explain everything and get their recommendation. And then I take into kind of what I know what my needs are, and then get to go through that. And so just going them through there and picking all that stuff is about half the fun anyway.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And it's like anything else. If you walk into a bow shop and you start looking at bows, be prepared, because there's going to be you're going to get some sticker shock on.
Yeah.
So if you're new to it, don't let that scare you off. You can make bow hunting as expensive as you want. You can make it as cheap as you want.
Exactly.
There's certainly just about every major bow manufacturer is going to make a more affordable version of a bow.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to go out and spend $1,500 to buy a bow. I mean,
No.
you can buy a really good bow for a couple $100s,
Yeah.
and you don't have to buy top of the line everything. That's something that I would suggest, like, especially as a beginner.
Yeah.
If you're wanting to get into it and just try it out, do that. And then a couple years in, you decide, hey, I'm really loving this. Then go and get you a little bit higher end stuff.
Yep.
But so number one we talked about was most important for bow hunting is a bow.
Yep.
Number 2 is your arrow. So
exactly. Yeah. You want to have the right spined arrow,
mhm.
So that it flies well.
What do you mean by spine?
It's the flexibility of the shaft. If you're shooting it out of a 70-pound bow and it's an arrow that's for a 40-pound bow, it's going to really whip on you. It's going to potentially break on you. And so making sure that it has the right setup for your bow, the right length that you're shooting. You want it cut off to your distance. You want to shoot, outfit it with practice points that are a certain weight, then outfit it with broadheads that are a certain that's
Mhm.
similar weight.
Yeah, doesn't do any good to practice with 100-grain field tips if you're going to shoot 150-grain broadheads.
Exactly. As soon as you put the broadheads on there, you know, that's one of the big things is there's all kinds of broadheads out there that you can attach to the bow,
Mhm.
to the arrow. Is make sure that you're shooting that same weight starting point, and then make sure that you actually practice with your broadheads. You know, a lot
Mhm.
of people think, oh, this 100-grain, I'll just go buy these 100-grain broadheads and just put it on there, and you got to tune your arrow a little bit.
Yeah.
In a lot of cases, whether it's a mechanical or a fixed blade broadhead, sometimes they don't hit exactly where they did with your field point. So you've got to
Mhm.
do a little bit of tuning with it. You shoot through paper, all those. You can get really, really detailed where it really gets the further the shot, you start getting past 20 yards. And if your arrow is not flying in a good straight line, if it's flexing and moving way more than it should and it's tearing as it goes through the paper, well, that means as it's going down through there, it's getting further and further off. And instead of hitting an animal where it's straight in, you're kind of sideways and
Mhm.
it's not going to hit the target where you think it's going to hit the target because the arrow's just flying. You
Yep.
know, the wind can affect it, and just itself, even going through the air, can affect it based upon if the arrow is not the proper arrow for the amount of weight that you're pulling with that bow.
Yeah.
And weight and length all go together. Broadhead, the weight of the tip, all of that stuff goes into it, and that's why that pro shop go in there. They know a lot more
Yeah.
than I do. I still go in and say, what exact arrow should I have? I'm going to shoot this type of what type of weight of field point do you want? Do you want aluminum shafts? Do you want carbon shafts? All those different things that you can select, and you can then shoot the bow. A lot of times they'll have different arrows in there that you can then shoot through your bow and see if it actually. Not every bow does the same arrow fly well out of
Yeah.
as well. So every bow needs to be tuned.
Yeah. And you can tune until you're till the cows come home. I mean,
Yeah.
you can tune as much as you want. I know guys that I like to go out and as long as mine's shooting good, I'm cool with
Yeah.
it. But I know guys that they go in and they'll tune broadheads to individual arrows and
Oh,
figure
yeah.
out which individual arrow flies best with each individual broadhead.
Yeah.
And so they'll go way in there. And kudos to those guys. They got more time than I do.
Yeah.
But
I always tell people number your arrows though, because
yes.
that is a good tip. Sometimes if you have just one that flies off, you need to know that.
Yep.
I mean, it's a arrow that they're humanly made, and sometimes things
Yeah, they're
just
not
go
perfect.
exactly. Or something happened to the arrow. Well, you mean it's shooting it, so it's not flying good. The fletching's off. You know, whatever it could be. That there's a little bit of curve in the fletching. It's been bent over that's causing it to actually hit 2 inches further to the right than all your other arrows. Well, if you
Yep.
know the arrow number, you're not guessing, well, man, I'm off. It's just me. No, it's that arrow.
Yeah.
Pull it out of the stack and don't use it.
Yep, my dad did that. He went through and found which arrows were most consistent and literally numbered them 1 through
Yep.
like 4. He had 4 arrows that he liked to hunt with, and he's like,
Yep.
number 1's my most consistent, and just worked down the thing there. That way, if he was hunting and he could look at his quiver and go, okay, this is a good arrow.
Yeah, I've done the same thing. That's the one that I want. It's number 1. It's like that
big old buck's out there. I'm not shooting number 4.
Yeah. You were that way with a baseball bat. You could have 2 baseball bats, and it's like this one just has better pop for me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna grab that bat. If you got 2 that look exactly alike, I want that one.
Yeah.
And
And that's the thing is everything is going to be just slightly different from setup to setup. So you want to tailor it exactly to how you want it. Because like you said, your buddy setup may not work for you.
Yeah.
So so as far as those are the mandatory things, right? Your bow, your broadheads, your arrows. Let's go with kind of the more peripheral kind of stuff. So let's talk deer stands, ground blinds. What is your preferred method as far as that goes?
Depends on the location. I've hunted deer in the wide open where there's not a tree that you can put a stand in.
Yep.
So I'm hunting out of a ground blind, brushing it in, trying to match the habitat that I'm at, not just going with its camouflage, but actually getting it brushed in with grass and different things. And then I've hunted out of climbing stands. I've hunted out of ladder. Now my preferred is because my age is ladder stands. Go get a ladder stand, hang it up. Hunt a spot. It's not as portable. A lot of folks now are using the saddles to move around and be very mobile. Saddle freestand hunting is great and fantastic. No matter what you do, you need to practice shooting out of your saddle, shooting out of a ground blind, because you're sitting. Very few of them do people stand up and actually shoot. Same thing out of a tree stand. Try to find a spot. If you're in town, go somewhere, go to your hunting spot, put that tree stand up. The ladder stand, you kind of know what height you're going to be. A lot of times when you're got a hang on stand, you might hang it at different heights. You might, if I had this happen to me where hunting a spot, my buddy's spot, and it's a steep canyon. He's up on top of the canyon, I think it was more mentally than anything. I didn't go out and shoot a bag, and it's like I'm shooting over everything that I'm shooting at. And it's because it was such a steep angle down, and I'm not drawing properly and bending at the waist so that my draw length's not kind of changing. I think it was me. It was just mentally, I can't get a deer shot here. I don't know
Yep.
what it is. It's a hard shot. It's like it's messing with me. So go practice out of not just the stand. Most people don't want to do this. If it's hot, you don't want to be
Yep.
out there when you're down jacket and all that stuff practicing, but all of that stuff changes you when you're shooting, actually. So you want to practice from whatever you're going to hunt from. Ground blind, so that you feel comfortable. Always have safety in mind. If you're hunting off the ground, make sure you got your safety harness. Make sure fall arrest system that you got, check it out. It's the number one thing. You want to be able to get back to your family afterwards. Check your stands when you're climbing up there. Make sure that everything's every time. We teach that in hunter education. If it's a platform stand, before you step down on that platform, check it. You're already strapped in, but and those manufacturers have best if used by dates on all of them, and so there are cables that are on those stands, or even the safety harness has an expiration date on it. I don't know if a lot of people realize that. Look at it and go, okay, I should actually get this. I've been using it now for 5 years. It's no longer recommended that I use this anymore, because part of that is wear and tear on it, as well as depending on how much somebody's hunted, how much it's been out in the environment, weather conditions. Don't leave it hanging in your stand, but it's whatever you feel comfortable with. Some people don't like getting up off the ground. The older I get, the closer I want to be to the ground, because if I fall, it's going to break something. 13-year-old kid falls out, and they just bounce. But it's just make sure that you're following all those manufacturers' recommendations for your safety equipment, and don't just throw the stuff out. Actually look at it and know what it is.
Yeah, and kind of piggyback off that as far as safety goes, especially with tree stands. Practice with your tree stand. Practice hanging your tree stand.
Exactly.
And I'm not saying go out, hang it your first time, go hang it 15 feet in a tree.
No.
Go find a tree, hang that platform 3 feet off the ground.
Yep.
Just so you know how it straps to the tree. Get in it. Sit in that tree stand. See how much movement you can realistically do. Figure out all that stuff before you hang it 12, 15 feet in a tree. Especially if you're a heights guy, which I was, still am. I mean, it still takes me 2 or 3 sits a year before I get fully comfortable in a deer stand. But that's another thing. So start at 3 feet and then take it down. A couple days later, go hang it at 5 feet and just work your way up, so that you're comfortable. Because if you're super nervous in that stand and you're shaking, that's an accident waiting to happen. And so, like you said, we want to make sure we practice and we're safe for that. All right. So as far as other equipment, is there any other equipment that maybe isn't necessary, but it does help, or it's fun to use, or anything like that? Anything?
Range finders or something.
Yep.
Don't have to have them. You can step off the distance from your tree or from your ground blind. Don't have to have them. It is nice to have, to be able to know the distance to your target.
And if you're hunting out of a stand, I highly suggest one that compensates for the angle.
Yes. Yep. And so that's something that you don't have to have, that didn't exist years ago.
Yeah.
You just had to know how to judge yardage, and we would go out and hang something maybe at the shots that we have. I like to have a really good set of binoculars. I hunt in a lot of areas that are transition areas where I can see a long distance. I do a lot of calling. A lot of folks don't do calling. You don't have to have a grunt tube. You don't have to have rattling antlers. Some people think they run deer off, all those different things. I'm just a guy that sometimes I just like to play with it, and you just never know where the deer's going to come from. Just be ready. And that makes the hunt interactive. Breaks up if you've been sitting there for 2 hours and haven't seen a deer. try grunting a little bit. If you don't have a grunt tube, you can't do it. If you've
Yeah.
got rattle antlers, you can rattle a little bit, see what happens at different times of the year. Those are probably the few things that you don't necessarily have to have, but can help you success wise, for sure. And where you feel confident that, okay, a lot of times why that rangefinder comes into effect a lot of times is a big deer will look closer.
Yeah.
Like that thing.
Especially if you're used to looking at does and ponds.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
your blood starts pumping, and you kind of lose a little bit. And
Mhm.
I think it's 25 yards. Click. That thing's 35 yards. I'm not comfortable shooting 35 yards. Well, you're going to shoot underneath it if you'd already just judged it as 25.
Yeah.
And so it'll help with that case of having that extra rangefinder there to back up. I think it's this far, and then to go it's farther than what it thought it was, or it's closer than
Mhm.
what I thought it was. Again, practicing, moving around in that tree, what you can and can't get away with depends on the deer and how many deer are around and all those different things. And so, if you got all the different gadgets, you want to practice with them throughout your different sets.
I will give you, this is my favorite piece of non-essential gear, is a screw-in cup holder. I love it. I was at a store somewhere and saw them. They were like $5. So I bought a couple of them. I brought them home and I was showing my dad, and he goes, "Why would you waste $5 on that?" He's like, "Just keep it in your bag." And I was like, "Oh, I want to try it." And so I had hung them in my stands, and me and my dad went out one day. We decided to switch spots. He was like, "I want to hunt yours, and you can hunt mine." So we swap stands. We get down that afternoon, and we come back, and he goes, "Where did you buy those cup holders at?"
Exactly.
To me, it's something. It's just a convenience thing.
Yeah.
I screw it into the tree. I can put my water bottle there. I'm not having to dig to my bag to find stuff. I don't know. It's again, it's super non-essential.
Yeah.
But it's,
Now, when I was introducing my son at a young age and started him bow hunting and hunting together out of a double stand
Mhm.
or hanging two stands, there were lots of things that weren't essential for me as an adult.
Yep.
That I would carry with me in the pack, from food, snacks, and things,
Mhm.
something to drink, and get you a few extra minutes in the deer stand when you're not quite ready to get down and it's just getting to be prime conditions, but your son or daughter is kind of wore out from an hour-long sit or 2 hours long. I'm
Yep.
ready to go. Hey, here's you something. He even had a little, when he went with me before he could hunt, DVD player that he could sit
Yeah.
there and watch DVDs, and had the headphones on, and he's entertained while we were in the deer stand, and that made it so Dad could hunt a little bit longer.
Yeah. But I mean, you bring up a good point though. Especially for new hunters. Don't think that you have to go sit in a deer stand and just be miserable the whole
Right.
time, because there's going to be mornings where it's slow and it's cold, and it won't be nearly as fun as you
Yeah.
might hope. But in those instances, have something that will kind of distract you a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying play on your phone all morning long, but have a snack, or if you want to bring like a little magazine or something, just kind of flip through when it's getting boring. Oh, do something to distract you a little
Yeah.
bit. Try to make it fun for yourself.
Oh yeah.
Like I said, the little cup holder. That's something that I really enjoy
Yeah.
having. And it makes my hunt a little bit more enjoyable for me.
Yeah.
So those are things that I think, especially new hunters, they think, I've got to go sit in a stand. I can't move the entire time. And it's like, no, have fun. This is about fun.
Exactly. Yeah.
Don't think you can't go out there and not enjoy it.
Yeah.
So anything that you think will keep you out there longer, do it. Again, snacks are a big one. I
Yep.
think the hunting community is single-handedly keeping Little Debbie's open. I mean, they make them little Christmas tree Little Debbie's.
Oh yeah.
And I think their stock has to just skyrocket in the fall.
Yeah.
Because every person I know is like, I've got 4 boxes in the truck that I
Yeah.
keep
Yeah.
so that I never run out. So, but yeah, it's stuff like that. That's your equipment and whatever little accessories you want to take.
Yeah.
See what works best for you. Experimentation is the best way to go about it. So now that we've kind of covered all of our equipment and kind of where to hunt and all that, I think the next big thing that I think a lot of new hunters may look over is practice. And I know we've mentioned it already several times. How important is practice?
It's extremely important. Number one, it helps you mentally feel like confident that when you are offered that shot,
Mhm.
you're already not questioning whether you're capable of making it
Yep.
or not. The other thing is you don't have to practice, you know, you can shoot long distance knowing that you're not going to shoot something beyond 20 yards, but it helps you hold better, particularly
Mhm.
with compound bow hunters. It helps you, again, just, you know, build up your strength. The more you practice, stronger you are, the easier it is to pull that bow, the less movement there is. It's in the stand when you're pulling your bow back, making sure that you don't have too heavy of a weight. We taught for a long time with kids shooting, and even in the NAS program, you don't have to shoot distance. Shoot, if you're going to shoot 20 arrows a night, shoot close, just working on form.
Yep.
Holding that form is, you know, it's not just the shot itself, it's what leads up to the shot, after the shot, doing everything the exact same way. So you need to practice, 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 whether it's a crossbow or anything. It's you need to go out and shoot that thing and make sure that it stays on. They got the same thing. It can have a scope, just like a rifle
Mhm.
can have a scope. It can be knocked off. Lots of different things that you should practice with your equipment. Don't just take it for granted that, hey, I'm going to make a 20-yard shot. I've been doing it all along. And something could have moved, you know, on your sight,
Yep.
and realize that things move. You need to have all those things marked. And so when you
Yep.
practice with that, you know where it's supposed to be at, and you can look at it almost, what in the world? My sight loosened up. And so you look at it and it's not in the right spot.
I had that exact situation happen. Sitting in a deer stand, had I don't remember now, 4 or 5 does come in, and picked out a doe. I was like, I'm gonna harvest this doe. Get drawn back. She has no idea I'm there. 20. I'm thinking 20-yard shots. What I estimated, chip shot. So I shot right over the top of her back. I was like, and it was pretty low light. It was right towards the
Yeah.
end of shooting light, and so I chalked it up to I must not have had my peep lined up right, or I flinched or something. Didn't think too much of it. 4 or 5 days later, I was like, I'm gonna go shoot my bow just to see. And I shot it at 10 yards, and I was 8 inches high at 10 yards. I guess what had happened was, come to find out, is from sitting in my case and riding in the truck,
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't tightened my sight all the way back
Yeah.
down, and the whole housing had shifted.
Yeah.
And so then I had to resight my bow in and really crank those bolts down to make
Yeah.
sure. And so that's another thing. Shoot during the season.
Oh yeah.
I'm not saying you have to go out and shoot 300 arrows a night, but
Right.
get it out once or twice a week. Just shoot, make sure nothing has moved around. Kind of what you're talking about on the distance. I routinely practice out to 40 or 50 yards. I'm probably never going to take that shot.
Yeah.
For me, I'm pretty comfortable out to about 30. Anything past that, I'm starting to get to where I'm like, I probably shouldn't take that shot. But like you said, you routinely practice at 40 or 50 yards. That makes that close shot that much easier.
Yeah.
That way you're not going, oh, that deer's at 25. I've only ever shot 20.
Right.
And now that's a long shot now. If you're used to practicing at 40 and that deer's at 25, that deer's going to almost look like he's standing on top of you.
Yeah.
When you go to take that shot, and it's going to be much easier. Again, on practice, this is with archery. This is not something that you want to pick up 2 weeks before the season and start doing.
Right.
I like to tell, especially for me, like I said, I've been doing this for 12, 15 years now. I still will start shooting a month or two in advance.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a lot. It's hot. I don't
Right.
want to go out and sweat a whole butt, but I might go out and shoot 15 or 20 arrows, especially early in the season, once or twice a week. And then as I get closer, I'll step that up and go shoot every other night. But the whole key to that, like you said, you want to have done it before.
Yeah.
You want, the more you've done it, the more comfortable you're doing it. It becomes muscle memory. And that is one less thing you now have to think about when you go to shoot a deer. When that opportunity finally presents itself, you don't want to have to be thinking about, all right, so where do I put my hands on the bow? How do I draw it back?
Yeah.
Where do I line everything? You want all of that to just happen naturally. And you want to be as focused on that deer as you can.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go. That'll bring us into form and technique. So what does proper shooting form look like in archery? Is this kind of an impossible question?
Different people, different form. You know, some people you look at them and go, I don't know how he's making that shot work for him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's no standard format. So there's basics, you know, of what you want to follow with shooting form,
Yep.
of not having your arm completely locked out so you don't hit your arm with the string, having a little bit of bow, your bow hand, you know, to 45-degree angle as well. You're drawing back to a consistent draw and anchor point. You know, the setup for it, the release of it, making sure that you're not punching the trigger, you're actually pulling back through the trigger and it just is going off. Tell people a lot of times it should kind of surprise you if you're shooting a release when the release goes off. You're talking about muscle memory. Well, the minute you start thinking is you start messing up. Same thing in almost any sport. You start thinking about it. Your coach probably told you that. I know you're play baseball. If you're thinking about the hit instead of just going up there and swinging like you know how to swing.
If you're thinking, you've already lost.
You've already lost. The ball's already by you. It's like, you know, and it's the same thing with hunting.
Yep.
That deer's already gone, or I'm overthinking it. Just let the shot happen. You know, make those ethical shots and practice. So, you know, you make that shot and you're going to know in most cases people are seeing where the arrow went when they hit that animal. You want to actually reflect on that because it's a big part of knowing exactly where that deer goes after the shot. You know, there's been people that I've hunted with over the years that they've gotten so excited. It's like, which way did the deer run? I don't know. Well, where did you shoot? Where was the deer standing when you shot? There's not always blood right there.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's like, now I've got to really start searching because he or she didn't pay attention to after the shot. You know, they
and that's an easy mistake for beginners.
Yeah. And so, you know, when you get in tune because you've practiced of seeing that arrow and seeing it down range and where it's stuck in the target, then your mind's focused on that as well whenever you've made that shot in an actual animal of I can actually visualize where that, because you shot enough, where my arrow struck on that deer. And I feel confident that it was a shot that, you know, I can get down in 30 minutes and start tracking this deer because it went into the vitals, looked like it was a double lung shot, you know, or I shot that deer and it was back. And I know that I'm going to have to just kind of give it some time before I go pursuing it.
Yeah. So. Well, and that'll kind of get us into tracking in terms of exactly what you're saying. If let's say you do make that shot and you're able to pay attention to where you hit that deer and you know for a fact you've double lunged that deer.
Yeah.
That can inform you on how long you need to wait. If you know for a fact you hit that deer back, I'm going to have to wait a lot longer.
Yeah.
If you shot it that morning, you might have to wait till that evening to go out.
You might have to. And, you know, a lot of times, sometimes you get lucky and the deer runs right there and you see it, you know, they may never move. It just goes down right there. There's some that you think, man, that deer just ran. That was a perfect shot.
Yep.
And they ran a long ways in a short period of time. And it's like, if you don't know what to look for, you know, in the blood, if it's a lung shot, looking for a little bit of bubbles in the blood, look for hopefully a pass-through shot, gives you better blood trail as well that you're going to have. Know if you pick that arrow up and it looks really dark red blood, and it looked like I hit it good, but it was kind of quartering a little bit. Evidently, I hit it back and I hit the liver, and that's multiple hours before you go looking for that deer because it just, you need to know a little bit about, you know, we teach an explore bow hunting program. You know, you can still find a gut shot deer if you know that you hit that deer back there and you don't push it. You wait.
Yeah.
You know.
It's going to expire at some point.
Yeah.
You've made a fatal shot, but
and now it's legal to call folks that have tracking dogs. I called one last year and I just backed out and made a shot. And it's like, man, I had really good blood and then it went to nothing.
Yep.
And where I stopped and where that dog, after 10 minutes, found the deer was 60 yards. But I couldn't find any more blood.
Yeah.
I mean, I was in that, I think they tell you kind of vacate the area if you get a hold of somebody that's got a decent dog, and you haven't really walked around everywhere. The dog really keys in better on that, I think keying in more on the pheromones that they're letting out versus
blood.
Versus the blood itself. But that's legal now. Also, guys that use drones for recovery. You know, you want to give every effort that you can to that deer to actually recover it, but knowing a little bit how to read the sign after you've made the shot is really important.
Yep. Cool. So I've got my license. I know where to hunt. I've got all my equipment and I've practiced. I've read up on tracking. I'm ready to go in the woods. What do I need to look for when I go out? I'm a new hunter. What am I looking for in terms of where do I need to hunt? How do I set my stuff, or where do I set my stuff up? That kind of thing.
We're gonna look for deer sign. Easiest is tracks. You can find tracks. Throughout the year, they're gonna start making scrapes. Deer, does, and bucks are gonna visit those scrapes. They actually have them through, year round. They kind of have visitation sites that they visit. Knowing that food sources, whether it's acorns or natural browse, if you're hunting a food plot, that some of the deer are gonna show up on that food plot at different times. A lot of people get frustrated early on. There's no deer coming to this food plot. Well, early on, there may be plenty of browse. We've had a great, if you got a great rainfall year, there's lots of grain out there. There's stuff for them naturally that they're going to be keyed in on. It's just as high in protein for them. They're just not going to show up. And then eventually one day it's like the light switch flipped and now here they are. Or that acorn tree that was full of acorns. And it's like, as soon as they start dropping, if it's the first one to start dropping, and whether it's the public hunting area or your private piece of property, and it's a preferred, white acorn, and they start dropping, you need to be somewhere in proximity to that acorn tree because they're going to be hitting it. Or, they browse on a lot of different browse, paying attention and knowing what a plant that's been nipped off,
looking for browse.
Like deer have been in here. And sometimes people go in and deer will be in a lot of places. They'll travel a long ways overnight. They may travel a long ways to get to their preferred food source, and they've already left before daylight. Sometimes people get keyed in because they find everything that's right there, tracks and food, but the deer are actually moving a long ways to get to it. And so then you have to be mobile. You have to, if you're hunting a spot and it's like, there's lots of sign here, but the deer just aren't here when I'm here, well, they're probably there at dark.
Yeah.
After dark. So you got to move closer, find a different area, go get out and move around, scout a little bit and find where they're at. So bedding areas, things of that sort.
Well, cool. Well, awesome. I think we've covered just a ton of information today. It's probably going to feel, especially if it's somebody that's brand new, it might feel like a lot. Pause the video, rewind it, make notes, however you want to do that. But I think we've certainly covered enough information. If somebody's like, I want to start, we've given a good foot in the door on how to do that. So where can people go to find out more?
They can go to our website, wildlifedepartment.com here in Oklahoma. That's a great location. The International Hunter Education Association has a bunch of videos that are on YouTube called Hunters Connect, and they're short, anywhere from 4 minutes to 15 minutes, that cover a lot of the same topics and have video going over what we've talked about. That's great. The National Deer Alliance has got a lot of great information on their page as well that people can go to, and then go to your friends that are bow hunters and visit with them. If they'll open the book up a little bit and share with you, you can learn a lot from them. Cool.
All right. Well, let's close with a hunting story. You got a fun one?
I've got a fun one with my son. We'd actually bought a piece of property. We had a young deer that was just a 6-point that had shown up. And the first year that we had the property, he's like, I want to harvest that deer. We never saw him during the first year. The second year, we're bow hunting, sitting in a deer stand. He went from just a regular 6-point to a good 6-point that had 2 drop tines and pretty cool buck, and his brow tines went to a split browse. And I've got a good and a bad. He shot a deer that actually we'd never seen before that morning. Made a good shot. We just weren't able to find the deer, and he was devastated, but he really wanted to shoot that 6-point. And so that evening, what shows up? The 6-point. So he went from a bow hunter of the lows that you can experience of, man, this is a deer, very, very nice deer that he shot that we just didn't find. Young age, learning that, hey, things are going to happen. You can make the best shot in the world and still not find that deer. And then going to a high.
The highest of highs.
The highest of highs. What capped it off was I actually knew the guy that was the marketing guy for PSE, shot a PSE bow. He posted it on their Facebook page. I printed off a picture, sent it to him. He actually got Pete Shepley, who was the founder of PSE, to sign Preston's picture of him with his deer. And so that's a pretty cool deal that he'll have the rest of his life. Is one of the, not the first deer that he shot, but it was one that he specifically said, I want to harvest that deer. Didn't get to do it the first year, but got the deer harvested the second year.
Well,
pretty
awesome.
Cool.
Awesome. I think that's so cool. That was
Yep.
memories for life, man. And that's what hunting's about.
Yep.
So, well, I appreciate you coming on, man, and getting to
bet.
talk to us a little bit. Thank you everybody at home for sitting at home and watching. If you want, give us a like, subscribe, check us out on other social media channels. Thank you.